why we did the whole podcast rename is we're not effectively communicating our heart of hope and healing, right? This transformation that happens when God gets a hold of us and allows us to really start seeing people, ourselves included, and let us know that even in our imperfections, that we are never too lost to be found. So how can we start really moving away from judging others? We talked even about, the very difficult relationship that you had with your dad, right?
Yeah.
In our last episode, if you didn't get to see it, man, you got to go see it. It was powerful. It's beautiful how the redemption story came through. But how do we move away from judging
Yeah.
others based on our own standard and really start to begin to see people through God's eyes? We're talking about this kind of outward focused shift of what we can do once we've established our value.
The thing that immediately pops into my mind is do not judge, lest you be judged. And so I think it is imperative for us to get away from any type of judgment and this idea of judging others and condemning others, because it is a boomerang effect that as you give out judgment, judgment will then come to you. And we always have this sick sense of fulfillment when we disparage others and we judge others and we compare ourselves to others. But yet at the same exact time, we have this deep, deep fear of people doing the same to us, right? It's just this vicious cycle that is destructive. But how do you do that? That's the question, right? How do you start to move away from this vicious cycle of judgment? So I did this little illustration with my kids to help them understand human value. Okay, so I had this like yardstick that I put vertical. And I said, okay, so this yardstick represents goodness, like how good a person is, how like valuable a person is. Okay. And I put Jesus at the top, right? Little sticky note, Jesus on the top. And then I put like Hitler down at the bottom, right? And so then I started, throwing out names. I said, okay, guys, if Mother Teresa, where would she fall on this spectrum? And they were like, she'd probably be like right under Jesus, because I think she was like a really noble person, like really pure, gave her life for orphans and people who were fatherless and motherless. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, okay, how about George Washington? Where would George Washington? They're like, I guess he's probably not a bad guy. He's probably in the middle somewhere. Okay. I was like, okay, give me someone like, Miley Cyrus. Oh, dude, she's way down here. Give me somebody who is like LeBron James. I think he's a pretty good guy, right? And then I was like, okay, what about you? Where would you put yourself? And they're like, oh gosh, they're kind of wrestling with this, and they're like, I don't know, like I'm not all the way to the top, but I'm not at the bottom, but I'm not in the middle, so I'm kind of just above 50%. And both of them kind of rated themselves about the same.
Yeah.
And I said, how do you guys feel about that? And they were just like, I don't know. I kind of felt weird, like judging myself or like trying to put myself on this scale. And I said, you wonder why you feel weird? And they're like, why? I was like, because there is no scale. Mm-hmm. And they're like, wait, what? What do you mean? I said, it's either Jesus or a sinner. And so we're all down in the same place as Hitler. We're either redeemed by God and our sins are covered, our guilt is covered by the shed blood of Christ, or it is not. But at the end of the day, we're all still sinners. We all still have a propensity for evil. We all have a propensity for failure. We all have a propensity to not do the right thing when called upon. And when I moved every single name all the way down to the bottom, what it did for my kids was it helped them to understand there is no ranking system.